All right, so what are we doing today? I'm going to show you just because it's Monday and we might have had, a crazy fun weekend, so we've forgotten all about school. We're going to do the starter, then we're going to do the level, and then your homework is to submit your level and your video notes, and that's your homework, the video notes. So same as always, okay? The answers are all here, front side and back side. Please make sure that wherever it says show work, so like this area right here, or this area right here, then you just show your work, okay? Everything else you probably don't need to show your work for. All right, so let's do this. For those of you who are online, hurry print this off.
You're not presenting.
Oh my gosh, I'm not presenting. Thank you for letting me know. So, I don't know if I told you guys, but my fourth period, did I tell you about my fourth period last week and how I want to like take my screen and throw it at all of them? No, okay. So my fourth period, my other algebra class, I was teaching. I don't remember what day it was, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't even know. I was teaching. I literally taught for 30 minutes on the starter. I like explained everything. It was a beautiful explanation. Everyone cheered and clapped after. But after I realized I wasn't presenting, and this class is big. Most of the kids are online. There's only a couple kids that are, most of the kids are in person. There's only a couple kids that are online, but in my fourth period, it's like most of the kids are online. And so none of them, they just heard it, but they didn't see anything. And I was like, why didn't any of you guys say anything? Oh, I was so sad. But so thank you, whoever shouted it out. I don't recognize your voice just yet. It was Luke. See, Luke, this is why I love you so much. You have a special place in my heart, Luke. On the seating chart where I have your name, Luke, did you know that there's a heart next to your name? Well, there will be. Okay, very soon, because I love you so much. Okay, so please, okay, your teachers are human as well. Please speak up if we're doing something boneheaded. All right, here we go. Number one. Actually, let's go rewind. All right, 4.3 is all about something called standard form. This is the last form of writing in a line. Remember, it's all the same thing. It's all like you all get the same answer. It's all the same picture, but there's different ways to write it. And now the reason why we're writing it in a different form is because there's different pieces of information you can get, right? Like for slope-intercept form, you don't have to write this down. But slope-intercept form, you can easily look at the formula and figure out, oh, that's the slope. Oh, that's the y-intercept. For point slope form, you can easily look at the form and be like, oh, that's the slope. Oh, these are points on the line. Here's standard form. You can easily say, oh, this form is useless. It is literally the stupidest form that ever survived. And I honestly don't know what you can get out of it because this tells you no information. There is nothing you can gather from this. So I have no idea why they make me teach it and make you guys learn it. But alas, I have to because it's on a STAR test. So you have to know it. So this is the stupid form. Oh, sorry. It's called the standard form. And literally there is nothing, like there's no slope here. I don't know what the slope is. I don't know what the y-intercept is. I don't know what a point is. What does A, B, and C stand for? I literally have no idea. Okay. So I honestly feel like people like standard form because it's the prettiest because you have X and Y on one side and you have like an answer on the other side. But honestly, I feel like that's the only reason why some people prefer standard form because it just looks pretty, but it's useless. So let's learn something useless today. Just kidding. I mean, you still have to know it. Okay, here we go. So standard form is AX plus BY equals C, where A, B, and C are different numbers. What do those numbers stand for? Nothing really. I mean, nothing really that important. You can't really gather the slope. It doesn't work all the time. You don't really know the y-intercept. That doesn't really work all the time. You don't know any points on this line just by looking at it. So let's just make it look pretty today. I guess that's all I can say. Okay. It's standard because you have X on Y on one side, and then you have a number on the other side. So it's like the most organized, I guess. It's for the people that have OCD or something and love things being neat and tidy and all that stuff. All right. So number one, write two equations in standard form that are equal to that. So here's standard form, right? X and Y are on one side, the numbers on the other. We want to write two equal equations that basically mean the same thing, but they're written in a different way. There's literally like infinity possible answers. Does anyone remember from the video notes what we had to do to like get a different answer? Emily?
Multiply the entire equation by the same number.
Yeah, multiply by the entire thing, every single piece by just some random number. Emily, what number do you want?
I did 2.
Okay, perfect. 2. I honestly would say like use 2, use 3. Don't use decimal, don't use negatives, don't use fractions, because that's when you can make silly mistakes, right? So use happy whole numbers. So let's multiply everything by 2. Emily, what was your final answer?
2x plus 6y equals 10.
Perfect. This is another way that I can write it in standard form. Great. All right. Does someone have another number they want to multiply by? Read. 6. All right, let's multiply everything by 6. Read, what would that answer be?
6x plus 18y equals 30.
Perfect. So boom, that's it. To rewrite a question, you basically just multiply every single thing on the left side and the right side by some random number you pick. And it's basically the same equation, it's just written in a different way. Okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you really wanted to multiply by like a half, sure, you could get like what? Half x plus 1.5y equals 2.5. Sure, if you really want to multiply by negative 7, negative 7x minus 21y equals negative 35. Sure, but I'm just saying, why complicate your life if you can just choose easy numbers like 2 or 3 or 4, small numbers where it's just mental math. Here's a trick question. If I multiply this entire thing by 1, I'm multiplying it by a number. If I multiply by 1, would I be writing a different form?
Nope.
No, because multiplying by 1, all the numbers stay the same, right? Okay, here's a double trick question. What if I multiplied it by a negative 1? Would that be different? Yes, because you see how all your symbols would flip? So I could multiply by a negative 1. I just can't multiply by a positive 1. Okay, so that doesn't really take much effort. Hopefully that's pretty standard. Okay, now let's do number 2. Let's get a little bit more difficult. It says write an equation in standard form. Okay, so my final answer has to look like this. AX plus BY equals C. It has to end up looking like that, but it has to go through these points. Okay, so here's what a bunch of kids do. Don't write this down, but here's what a bunch of kids always do every year. They're like, okay, I know it has to end up like this. AX plus BY equals C. So I don't really know what A is, but maybe like this can be like an X and a Y. And so maybe I can stick in like a -2 for the X. And then maybe the B will just be the 6. And then the C will just be, I don't know, like one of these numbers. Like people just try to like just stuff in random numbers for A, B, and C because they think it works out. And that's not true at all. Okay, please don't do that. The only way that you can get something in standard form is to put it in slope-intercept form first. You have to put it in y equals mx plus b form first, then you can move things around. Okay, that's your only way. There's no other options. Okay, so let's put it in slope-intercept form first. Okay, can someone tell us, how do I figure out one of these blanks? We did this last week. What do we think, Cameron?
Y2 minus x or y1 over x2 minus x.
Okay, so Cameron is saying, let's find the slope. The slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And let's plug in these numbers. Okay, so Tessa, if I were to plug in y2 minus y1, it would be what minus what? Thank you. Okay, on the bottom, Nadia, if I did x2 minus x1, it would be what minus what?
1 minus.
Thank you for saying 1 minus -2. It's not 1 minus 2, it's 1 minus -2. Okay, you have negatives, you have simplifying. Please just do yourself a favor and just type it in as one big problem in your calculator. So just go alpha y equals enter. Okay, do you guys need to grab a calculator? Hurry, go grab one up on the board if you need one. Go, go, go. Okay, so I'm I'm typing in my problem. Alpha y equals enter. -6 minus 6, 1 minus -2. Please keep in mind that negatives and minuses are different, okay? The negatives are longer and more towards the center, and sorry, the minuses are longer and more towards the center, and the negatives are like shorter and like a little bit higher set. Did anyone get an answer for this yet? What do we get, Emily? Perfect, -4. So I know my slope is -4. All right, I'm not done yet. I still have to figure out that blank. Does anyone remember from last week, how do I figure out that blank? Because there's no 0, comma something. I can't just like fill it in. What do we have to do, Cooper?
1.
You put the what?
1.
1. So like to figure out this number.
Oh, now I'm confused.
Okay. Luis?
Don't you do like you grab one of the points?
Yes.
And then you put the y in first and you like equal -4.
Yeah. Okay, so Luis is saying take this equation, rewrite it, y equals -4x plus b. The b is what I'm solving for. And Luis is saying take one of these points. It doesn't matter. Luis, which one do you want? The first one. Okay, honestly, I mean, they both have negatives in there. So normally I like to choose the one that don't have negatives, but they both do. So it's a crapshoot. All right, so my y is 6 equals -4 times x. X is -2 plus b. And now I go ahead and I just solve for b. So I have 6 equals -4 times -2 is +8 plus b. And then to solve for b, I -8 on both sides. So what is b, guys? -2. Thank you. So I finally have that, but it's not even my answer. All right. So now what do? I have my equation, y equals -4x minus 2. Now I can put it in standard form. Standard form means to put my x's and y's on the same side and then put your c's, like the other number, by itself. So do you see how by putting this in standard form, I need to take this x and move it over to this side. So I'm going to add 4x on both sides so that I have my x's and y's on the same side. So I end up having 4x plus y equals -2. That is my answer to that problem. So again, the only way that we can write something in standard form is by you have to put it in slope-intercept form first. You don't have a choice. You have to put it in this form first, and then you can just take your x and bloop, put it over to the other side. I'll let you finish writing that down before we do number 3. Last one. Any questions so far? Like I said, we're now at 4.3, middle of the chapter. It does get harder.
What does this actually accomplish?
Nothing. It accomplishes prettiness, I guess. But remember, you know how your teacher used to always say, don't judge a book by its cover? Just because someone looks pretty on the outside doesn't mean they're pretty on the inside. So no, I mean, it really, honestly, honest to God, it doesn't accomplish anything, but you still have to learn it because 1,000 years ago when, like the people were learning algebra and discovering algebra, they thought this was important, and maybe it'll be more important when you're like in algebra 2. I honestly don't remember because I haven't taken algebra 2 since 9th grade. But I don't know. Sorry, kid. Okay. All right, last one. Says, find the missing coefficient in the equation of the line. Write the completed equation. It looks more complicated than it seems. Do you see this equation? Like, they basically just want you to figure out what number is A. Like, figure out what number that is so that is in standard form. Okay? So So again, a lot of kids are like, I don't know what number A. Do I stick in the 6? Is it a 9? No, it's not. Okay. There's an actual way to solve this. Does anyone remember from the video notes on Friday what I had to do to solve for A? Rowan?
Plug in your coordinates and see X and Y values.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So Rowan is saying, here's an X, here's a Y. Why don't we plug in those numbers and then we can solve for A? So I have A times 6, or 6A, right? Minus 2 times Y is 9, equals negative 6. So it's really not that hard. I feel like it looks more complicated than it is. You're just plugging in your X and your Y. And look, you only have one variable, so now that's how you solve it. So really you have 6A minus 18 equals negative 6. So I'm going to add 18 on both sides. Negative 6 plus 18. I feel like a lot of us make silly mistakes with negatives. So just use your calculator just as like a backup. Okay, it's positive 12. Okay, it's 12. So then you divide by 6 on both sides. So you get A equals 2. Not too bad. Okay, I have one final thing to clarify with you. You don't have to write it down, but I just have one final thing to clarify with you, and then we're done, okay? All right, so let's say that you have something in standard form. So remember, if it says put it in standard form, you have to put it in slope-intercept form first, right? And let's say your slope-intercept form is like y equals 2/3 x plus, I don't know, 10 or something. So if you're putting it in standard form, that means I'm taking my x and moving it to this side. So I'm going to minus 2/3 x on both sides. So if you minus 2/3 x, isn't standard form going to be negative 2/3 x plus y equals 10? So that would be my standard form answer. Now, I'm telling you right now, this is okay to leave as your answer, but some people are super OCD and they don't like having your first term be a fraction. They like everything being a whole number. So if you are super OCD, here is an option. If you want to get rid of your fraction, what number, there's only one choice here. What number do I have to multiply my problem by? 3, the denominator. To get rid of the denominator, right, to make it not a fraction, you have to multiply it by whatever the denominator is. So if I multiply everything, I would get negative 2, right, because that just cancels out, x plus 3y equals 30. These two equations are exactly the same thing, just written in different ways. Okay, so you can have it as a fraction. I honestly don't mind, but if you are OCD and you like happy, pretty, just whole numbers, then you can leave it like that too. Keep in mind, if you don't like having a negative in front, then you can switch the symbol of every single thing. And this is the same thing because it's essentially like you just multiplied everything by -1. Okay, so that's okay too. Okay, we have 28 minutes left. Okay, so what you're going to do